Matthew Potter was let go from 98 Rock and 105.5 The Bridge just 2 weeks ago. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with Matthew to talk about what's next for him. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Mr. Matthew.
What's up, Quintin? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great here.
Good.
Yeah, man.
What's going on?
What's going on with you?
Nothing at all. That's not true, man. Lots, I guess. I mean, big news is I'm no longer with 98 Rock and 105.5 The Bridge, but things are good. Just got married. So that's been pretty awesome.
Yes.
So past couple weeks have been a bunch of highs and lows, but things are good.
And how are the kids?
Kids are good. They're good. My son's 11. My daughter's 9. My son just had a science fair project this morning. So that was pretty neat. We worked on that all weekend.
Yes.
So it's been good. It's been awesome.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me get back to the article from the Charleston Scene. It reads this. After working at 105.5 Bridge in 98 Rock for 14 years, former station operations manager and organizer of 98 Rock Fest, Matthew Potter was let go on Thursday afternoon. 14 years. Where does your mind go to?
Let's see, where's it go? Well, it was a shock, obviously. So, transitioning into, having that stability for so long and going in and doing your job and doing all that kind of stuff to come to work one day and not be able to go to work, it was quite the transition. Matter of fact, I called my wife and said, hey, so I'm coming home a little early today. And, it's okay. It's been interesting. I've got a lot of stuff on my plate, but in a good way. Like I said, I just got married and, of course, the kids and all that kind of stuff. But, finding out my next direction and what I'm going to do next. I went to school for advertising and, minored in English and creative writing and all this kind of stuff. And that was really the plan when I, got out of school. I just took like a 14-year detour into rock and roll, which I love,
Yes.
so it's an adjustment for sure. So still figuring out what the next step is.
And I know that the new manager wanted to get into a new direction as far as the format of the radio stations. What does that direction look like in your mind now?
I don't know. The new management that came in just said, we're going to move a different direction, and as far as I can tell, the stations kind of sound the same so far, so I don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, typically a lot of radio stations, I know a lot of people are worried about like the format flipping, meaning like it's going to, switch to, whatever, jazz or, country or gospel station, it doesn't matter, whatever the case, but I don't think that's the case, but I really don't know. That's not really my. They don't give me that information. Right. They don't lay it out there for me to find. For me to assess and let them know what I think. So.
And then you talk about the new management. They came in and basically, in the parking lot, told you, "Hey, give us your key, give us our keys.
Yeah.
You can't go and get your pictures to the kids."
Well, eventually they did.
Okay.
Obviously that day. I mean, I was a little heated, I guess, just because it was such a shock. And I was. Tempted to walk in, and they just said, come out here, and took the keys and all that stuff. Eventually, I did. I met up with the guys on the following Sunday, and got all the stuff out of my office. So that was good and all that kind of stuff. But that was an interesting day for sure. Like when you go in and you plan your day, especially like what I did with programming both radio stations. There's a lot of work. You've got a schedule, you do music and you do the programming, and then you talk to record people and you working on commercials and all those kind of things, and the music itself, I guess I'm gonna go get a coffee, So, it was interesting.
Interesting. You talk about interesting. It was maybe a week or two before, obviously Box left.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to move into a different direction
Sure.
as far as his career. What was it like for you to see that?
It was a lot. Look, Box is one of my best friends, man. We're brothers, for sure. So, he decided he wanted to go a different direction as well. And I think at that point, that's when the ownership, decided, like, look, this might be the time to do it. Like, let's just go ahead and pull the trigger and go a different way. So whatever that means, I don't know. Box and I are still tight.
Yes.
We will always be. Like I said, we're brothers. And I wish him well, and I'm sure he does the same for me. And we've chit chatted here and there, and who knows? I mean, people are like, "You guys should start your own radio station," things like that or whatever. And who knows? Maybe down the road. I don't know yet. Yeah.
Let me go back to that meeting, because apparently you met with the new ownership and you thought everything was fine.
Right.
What was it like? Did you see anything right or wrong in your mind?
Looking back, I guess I could say that maybe there were some signs that this was going to happen anyway, a couple months back. But I don't really know how we got to the point that we did, and certainly this quick. Now, this happens from what I understand in the radio business, but I'm not one of those guys that's jumped from radio station to radio station. I haven't been, and a lot of this industry is set up that way, where it's like, I worked in Milwaukee, and then I worked in Tampa, and I worked in Sacramento, and all this kind of stuff. I haven't. When I started at the station, I walked in the door 14 years ago, and Mike Allen was the program director at that time, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, dude, can I play some records? I'd love to do this." And just so happened that they had a spot, and that was like working in the evenings, and I was running a restaurant at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so I took over doing some part-time stuff, and then after that, just kind of went up the ladder from assistant program director or assistant music director to program director to programming both stations and operations manager and all that. So again, I was not somebody that jumped around all over the place, so it's new for me. I don't know what happens next.
Yeah. You talk about your 14 years in radio. What is the state of radio right now in your mind?
It's alive. People are going to tell you hear this a lot, that radio's dead and all that. It's not. There's a stat out there, I forget the exact number, but it's still something like 93% of the people still tune into the radio in some way, shape, or form. And of course, there's the local aspect to it. A lot of people are into Sirius radio and satellite and all that. But if you want your finger on the pulse of the scene, local radio is where it is, and that's what we were. I hope the stations continue to do that. I think that's part of their plan. I'm sure it is. But I think it's fine. It's certainly different than it used to be 20 years ago. Well, 25 years ago, really, radio was king. It really was. I mean, it was just, the internet was just getting into being a big part of the music part of music. And now radio has to work at it a little more. We're a big part of campaigns for companies that want to sell their product and advertise their product, so we don't just put them on the radio with a commercial. Now there's a lot of social network stuff that we incorporate into campaigns for certain companies, and that's what radio stations are now, all of them. I mean, not just the stations that I worked at. I mean, it's every radio station. If you don't have that kind of way of helping a client, then it's just not going to work. You have to work in contests with your website and with your Facebook and your Twitter and all kinds of things like that. And so that's when we go to a client and pitch them. It's not just, hey, we'll give you a radio commercial for 30 seconds for this amount of money, and we'll run it this many times. It's just not like that anymore.
What is your favorite memory of being really a program director and an on-air personality?
The connection, it was really cool. Over the years, the listeners, especially like my core listeners over a long time have become good friends, and they were there through a lot of stuff. I mean, when I got married, to having my first child, to having my second child, and all the ups and downs and all that kind of stuff. And I was always pretty open. I shared a lot of stuff on the air, and you had people call up, and sometimes people liked what I said, sometimes people didn't like what I said. I had a few things that were a little controversial. I tried to stay out of politics too much, or whatever, even though I followed politics a lot. But programming rock stations, people are trying to get away from that. It's like, look, where you can get the news. I know you want to hear some music, let's put on some Pearl Jam or some Soundgarden or whatever the case, so that you can get away from that kind of thing. But, I was really open, and people responded to it. They would always call in and go like, yeah, Potter, we got your back, and, and like, oh man, I totally agree. And then a lot of people, like I said, that disagreed, but it was always pretty respectful, and, we had that back and forth all the time. And then, we've got contests that are going on. Like, well, we got a contest going on. Well, I keep saying we, but I mean we in the music community. The Battle of the Bands going on for Rockfest. So Rockfest is happening in April, and the winner of the Battle of the Bands gets to open up Rockfest like they have every single year. It's going on at the Sparrow. Last night was the second night. They got 2 more weeks, and then the finals. And so I miss that. And of course, I can still go out to the local scene, and I will. I haven't been able to make it the first 2 weeks, but I'll be out there because I love my local guys and all the hard work they put in. So I miss that connection and being able to show that like on the air to people, and the passion about hey man, local music, local rock and roll. So.
You talk about the Rock Fest, and I've gone to the Facebook comments and all this stuff. People are like, hey, we're going to boycott this. We're going to boycott this station. What is your message to your followers?
Nah, don't do that. That's not what it's about. The station and I, we parted, and that wasn't my decision. But it's not about that. Rockfest itself, the promoter that puts on Rockfest, we have a separate guy that comes in and helps us put this contest together. So he and I work together every year to put these bands together. So it's a big part of putting Rockfest together. But he's a great guy, always giving back to our community and all that. So, buy a ticket and go to the show. I mean, there's great bands and all that stuff. So I don't expect anybody to boycott. I don't think you should miss out on rock and roll just because, I said, or because I'm not there anymore or whatever. I'll be out there, I'm sure. I think I'm gonna make it out. So, it'll be fun, and there's no reason to boycott the station. I mean, there's nowhere else to get some good rock in this town, as far as I know. But we'll see. Yeah. Maybe in the future.
Yeah, right, exactly right. Well, Matthew Potter, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Hey, man, my problem. I've been in front of an audience so long. It's been 2 weeks.
Right.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Quintin, thanks so much, man.
Anytime. I appreciate this.
Rock and roll.
Yes, sir.